This is Tech Bytes, and this is going to be our hands-on Microsoft Server and networking. So this is going to be our first section that we'll be taking on. So this is going to be the first one. So this is going to be the one what we are actually going to cover. So day one, we are going to understand about client and the server. We will talk about the network architecture that we actually have. We have a little bit idea about what is called virtualization. Then we come to the IP addressing and subnetting. We are not going depth into IP addressing and subnetting, but it's just like knowing about the classes and then the marks. That is what we're actually going to do. We won't dive deep into subnetting the whole IP address into different networks. So let's begin. So if we are talking about a client and a server, we have been a client or we have seen a client before, and we have heard of a server as well as. So if you are talking about a client, or let's assume, let me use this scenario. We have been going to restaurants to buy food and do a whole lot of stuff there. So we being the client, we are putting our request to that particular restaurant as we are actually going there. So they are rather providing other services, all right? So we go in, we make our request, and then they give a response to us. This is the same scenario or the same thing that actually happens when we come into the field of computer networking or in technology world. Okay, so let's look at the difference between the servers and a client and what's their role that they actually play. Okay, so a client are computers, okay, that request resources in the computer network. They are not humans. Per the example or per the illustration that I was giving, I was using humans, but the clients are not going to be human, but they are rather going to be computers. Okay, they are making what is called a request, so this is very important. So they are making a request. They are making a request of resources, all right, in the computer networks. So I think this one is self-explanatory. And let's look at the servers. The servers are computers that are designed to process the request. So this client is going to actually make a request, and then the server is going to process the request that was sent by this client. Okay, so when you get to a restaurant, you take the menu book, and then you make a request of a particular food that you actually want. So the restaurant is going to process your request and actually going to give you what is called a deliver. So it's going to give you a feedback of your request that you actually placed. Okay, so in the world of technology and the world of computers, so this service actually process the request and then deliver the data to another computer over what is called the Ethernet network or the internet or on a local network. So right. So we can actually see this diagram here, which gives us a little bit insight about how client and the server actually operate in the field of technology. So we have a client machine or a desktop here, which is actually referring to the clients. Okay, and we have another computer here, which is also referring to the server. So now we can see that on this desktop we can see an image here which is illustrating like it's a Chrome. So this client will open a Chrome, and let's say I want to search for will take bytes, or I want to search for YouTube videos on YouTube. Okay, or search for videos on YouTube. So the searching is requesting. All right, so you can see the arrow which is pointing to the server that, oh, I want a YouTube video of this. So the request is being made to the server. Definitely the server is going to process. That is what we talked about. You're going to process the request that is being made by the client, and they're going to respond or give you a feedback of what the client requested. Okay, so this is actually explains how a client and a server actually works in in a network, right? So let's move to the next slide. So we actually don't know where servers are actually. So when you get to companies, servers are actually located at in companies, in other workplaces. We see servers are there, all right, and these are actually, we find them in a server room. Okay, so the server is actually located within an organization. We call them on premises. They are within this organization. They are not situated differently apart from the organization. So we have the one that is on cloud, and we have the on premises one. All right, this one is being hosted and managed by the organization themselves. Okay, so let's come to understanding the network architecture that we have. So when we're talking about architecture, we are talking actually about, refers to a synonymical word, or a synonym word for architecture. It's about design. All right, so we are going to look about how the design of a network is being made, of which it allows different computers to actually communicate with each other. Okay, so computer network architecture represents the computer network design that actually allows computer network components to communicate. So you have the network components. We can talk about switches, routers, and different services that are run by these networks. All right, so that they can communicate with each other. So upon this architecture, we have two different types of this architecture. So we have the peer-to-peer networks that we actually see. All right, so in this peer-to-peer, I'm going to explain a little bit about this peer-to-peer network. So we can see we have 4 PCs here, 2 laptops and the 2 desktops, and these machines are joined or connected together through a network device which is called a switch. Okay, so we've been connected to a cable, whether Cas5, Cas6 cable. Okay, all right, so with this client, or with this peer-to-peer networks, so let's use a normal Windows 10 operating system that we actually use, whether Windows 8 or Windows 10 or Windows 11, that we actually use. This are client operating system, and you have the network operating system. Okay, so in this peer-to-peer, we have a client operating system. Let's assume that each device has Windows 10 installed on it. All right, so the OS that is installed on each of these devices is actually responsible for controlling the access, right? So the access of the resources without any centralized control. So the resources that are actually situated on these devices are actually managed, controlled by these devices themselves. Okay, without any centralized management, whereby we not have any server situated somewhere else and is going to manage these resources that are on each device. That is the peer-to-peer network. And you have to bear in mind that there is no authority over the other when it comes to peer-to-peer. Nobody has more authority than the other. Everybody is in the same lane. Okay, so that is what we are trying to say, that like this, each computers control their own resources, and then they communicate directly with each other. So if you're having files like a PDF files here, these files are actually controlled and managed by this laptop itself. Okay, and they can directly communicate with each to this laptop, and then they can actually share that particular files or that particular data that is on this desktop, all right, or this laptop. So that was the first one. So let's look at the second one, which is the client and the server architecture that we have. So upon the first slide, we saw that this is how the design looks like. We don't have any centralized server here. So on here we have um, three devices or three computers connected to a switch as usual, and then we have another computer here which is a server, and then we have a printer which is connected to the server. So upon this design, we can explain that we have a centralized device that is managing the resources. When you went back to the peer-to-peer, there was nothing like centralized um, machine that's actually managing the resources of those computers. No, there wasn't like that. Okay, so everybody or each computer have control over their own resources. Okay, so these resources are managed by the NOS. If I'm talking about NOS, what I mean is a network operating system, right? So this network operating system could be the Windows server, the Ubuntu server, the RHEL or the Red Hat Enterprise Linux server. There are a whole lot of servers out there. So this is needed to be installed on this bare hardware so that it can manage whatever that's these client machines are going to be what needed for their operations. Okay, so when it comes to this centralized or client and a server, so there's a centralized database that actually contains the user's information and security for the operations. Okay, and we normally call this one as an AD. So now you can see it's like something like a human face, but it's not human, or a person's face. Okay, so this is actually like an AD active directory that actually stores users' credentials information. It's not only users, computers and printers as well. Okay, so we classify those or these as an object. When we move to a server side, this is what we call them as an object. Okay, so now you can see that these resources these resources, when it came to peer-to-peer, there was only management of resources by own. So the resources are being managed by each machine. Okay, so this time the resources is not going to be, but rather this server actually manages, all right, the data and then the resources for these devices that are being joined on the network. All right, and it could also ensure that only authorized access have. So what it means is that in order to have access to this any resource on the network, you have to authenticate through the system before uh, permission is being granted to access whatever resources or whatever files that you need from the system. All right, and it could also allow you to control which type of file the user can open, and then read certain permissions to files. When it comes to file manager or file server manager, when you are using a particular server as a file server, you set permission to certain files that the users are going to be accessed. So let's assume I have a file name like document. All right, this is a document file. This document file can be actually opened and read by this particular user here, which is Rose. And even when this even when these bridges can actually access it, but bridges can't either open or read that particular content of that document, right? So this is one of the advantages or the function that we can actually speak of when we come to client and a server. I hope you have understood the difference between these two architectures that we have. All right. So let's move to the word of virtualization. Maybe you have heard of virtualization before, or if not, we'll explain further about what virtualization actually means. Virtualization is the process of running more than one operating system at the same time on a single computer. Okay, so you are running more than one operating system. So right now I'm using Windows 10. I'm running just a single operating system on this machine, right? But here's the case, I'm not running just a single, but I'm running multiple operating system on this same machine that I'm using. That makes it become virtualized. So you are running, can run something like Windows 11 on the same or on a single machine, maybe Windows 8, Windows 9, maybe with Linux privileges like Ubuntu server or Ubuntu clients desktop or Red Hat Enterprise Linux and other operating system that you can mention. So you are running this operating systems on the same or a single computer. Okay, so let's make a worst scenario like you have a room. Okay, you have your own apartment. All right, so this own apartment becomes a single apartment, and this single apartment is being used by maybe 6 people. Okay, so I own this apartment, but I am able to share the same apartment with 3 or 5 different people additional to myself. Okay, so we become 6 here. All right, so in taking a real world scenario, that is what I can explain about talking about virtualization. And to implement virtualization, you need a software which is called a hypervisor. Hypervisor is a software technology that's actually built into the system, so you don't need to go and download it, you don't need to go and get it at anywhere. It is built within the system. All right, so we have 2 types of hypervisor. We have the type 1 hypervisor, which we also know as a bare metal, and you have the type 2, which is also known as a hosted. So in order to actually implement virtualization by using this, is actually used on a bare metal servers. I'll show you. Let me give you an example like what we have here. Yes, like on the bare metal servers. All right, so this is one of it. And then the type 2 is talking about the hosted. So hosted is like what we actually having here. I'm having a Windows 10 machine on my system, and I'm running additional operating system on top of this Windows 10 machine that I'm actually using. That makes it what a type 2 hypervisor. Okay, so this is what we are going to use on our lab sessions. We are going to use a type 2. We don't have this kind of bare metal or the type 1 hypervisor technology there, so we are going to use the type 2 for our practice lab to practice whatever that we want to learn on the servers and networking. Okay, so let's compare this type 1 and type 2 hypervisors in terms of the design. So with type 1, you can see that each has what is called hardware, having a physical hardware like this. All right, having this physical hardware, and then we need the type 1 technology or the software is installed on it. I said it's already built in the system, so we are going to have what is called a management operating system. So you need something like the EXXI operating system. EXXI is actually going to help you to set up this kind of management operating system so that you can actually install any form of virtualization or virtualize any kind of OS that you actually want on that particular system. So when it comes to the type 2, we have the hardware and we have the hosted operating system. So we are having operating system sitting on top of this hardware. All right, and we have virtualizations. You can run virtual machines on top of it, and bear in mind that these virtual machines are going to use the resources of this particular hardware. All right. So if you're having about this machine is having about let's say 16 gig of RAM, you can allocate maybe 333, which give us about 12 gig RAM. Okay, so each device is going to use the resources, the RAM, the graphics, um, the storage space. I'm talking about the hard disk. You're going to use all this. It's like somebody being in your room is going to at least use some of your resources in your room. All right, so this how this actually also works. So let's move on to type 1 and type 2 hypervisor that we have. If you're talking about the perimeter hypervisor, you can go to the VMware vSphere. That is the most well-known type 1 hypervisor software that we have. Alright, and then we have Microsoft Hyper-V server. It's also there. We have the KVM, the kernel-based virtual machine. Then we have the Citrix, the Zine hypervisor, you have the Red Hat virtualization, you have the Proximus. What I'm familiar with is this too. Alright. And when it comes to the type 2, that is talking about the hosted based one. So we have Oracle. I'll show you how you can search for this hyper. They are free. VMware Workstation 2 is free. The product, which is also used on Mac OS, it came on the quick emulator and the Proximus as well. Right. So these are the the type 1 and type 2 applications or software that you can actually search for. So let's look at this scenario here. So we have a server. You get to a company whereby this company A or whatever that they may call it have this server, their data center or server room. Right. So these servers are actually mounted on a rack, on a server rack, with each unit. We have units in the racks. So each unit is, let's say, about 2 units is going to hold this the server here. So I'm going to fix in one, which is going to be the web server. I'm going to fix in another one, is going to be the file server, the firewall server, the database server, the mail server. So these are going to be like the services that's going to run on this servers. All right. Then we have in the UPS, that the uninterrupted power supply. They have the storage area network SAN, which is also here. You have the management workstation. All right. So do you think it will be easier in terms of cost? No, it won't. It's going to be cost, because if you are going to buy about, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to buy about 5 of these. All right, it's going to be cost. All right, so that is why virtualization comes in. So we are going to move to the next slide, whereby it solves this problem of this cost effective, whereby the problem of this, whereby it eliminates the cost of buying all this kind of servers. So let's assume I can have only just one box like this, and I can run all these 5 services on this server with the help of what? Virtualization. Okay. So let's look at the next slides of what it entails. So you can see that on the first one we have 5 racks here, right? So 5 servers that are mounted here. On here we have the first and the second one. So the first one is actually used for Hyper-V hosting. So this service is actually hosting 3 different services. Alright, it's hosting the web server, it's hosting the file server, it's hosting the firewall server. And then the second one was used for the database and email. So it actually saves money of buying about or mounting different multiple servers within this rack, right? So the UPS and the SAN, they are actually there. But if you are talking about the services or the roles that you want each server to actually perform or run, you can virtualize this servers to run this system or this services or the specific role that you want this service to actually perform. Alright, so we have talked about the client and the server. We have talked about a little bit about virtualization, and then we have learned about this mounted server racks and the importance of virtualization, what it's necessary, because if you go to companies nowadays, this is what is actually going on. Virtualization is taking over all over the system or all over their system in order for them to do their management works. Alright, so this is where I'll put the end of the first video of the day one with a byte video. So I'll continue with the second video, and I hope that you like this video and leave your comments down below and subscribe to my channel as well.